Have you ever thought about doing a dual occupancy development and wondered what kind of costs were involved? Well, stick around because in this video, I'm going to break down all the different costs that you need to consider long before you commit to a development project of any kind, including development cost examples. By the end, you'll have a clear understanding of all the project costs that you need to consider when forecasting or doing a feasibility, and at what point you'll need the money on standby to inject into the project. Let's hop into the video. Hey guys, Peter Kelly here from Little Fish Property Developments, helping you maximize the value of your land and generating wealth through low-risk, dual-lock development projects. On this channel, we share everything you need to know to deliver successful projects time and time again. So if that's something you're interested in, then hit the subscribe button and turn the bell notifications on so you don't miss anything. For simplicity, I've broken the costs down into 5 categories: purchase, planning, sales and marketing, holding, and of course, construction costs. I'm going to break down each individually with examples of costs that you can expect in each category. And if there's anything specific that you need to consider, I'll share that also. Now, before we get too far down the track, I need to make an important disclaimer. All of the cost examples listed in the video are for the purpose of the exercise only, and your costs are going to vary dependent on the countless project variables. These figures are based on my own experience, which I'm happy to share with you guys and give you a leg up on your property development journey. But remember, these costs represent a different time and most likely a different area, so it's critical that you still do your own research. First cab off the rank are the purchase costs. When talking about purchase costs, we're talking about settlement costs. So the purchase price plus all the other relevant costs that are incurred to settle the property. Purchase costs might look something like this: contract purchase price, conveyancing, stamp duty, adjustments, and the total purchase price of all those comes to $846,200. Note, the amount of stamp duty payable is calculated on a sliding scale starting at 1.4% for properties with a dutiable value of $25,000 and going up to 5.5% for properties with a dutiable value of $960,000 and above. The purchase price is pretty self-explanatory. It's the negotiated price. We've assumed $800,000 for the purpose of the exercise. The conveyancing is your conveyancer's or solicitor's fee for managing the settlement of the property between the vendor and their bank. Stamp duty is a duty or tax charged by the state government for certain types of transactions, such as selling property. It is paid by the purchaser and is payable to the State Revenue Office. The Statement of Adjustments refers to any rates, taxes, current leases, or outgoings that will need to be adjusted to ensure that the seller only pays the portion up to the date of settlement, and that you are only liable for the portion from this date. Next, we have planning costs. These are all the costs you will incur from the day you sign the contract until the project completion, excluding sales and marketing and the holding and the construction costs. Your project's lists of planning costs might look something like this, but certainly not limited to surveying, town planning drawings, working drawings, interior design, demolition, plan of subdivision, telecommunications, additional crossover, power pits, and miscellaneous. In this particular case, it comes to $65,000. Keep in mind, every property development project is going to be different and have countless variables that need to be considered. Not all costs listed here are going to be relevant for every project, but these should get you heading in the right direction when thinking of planning costs for your project's feasibility. I've listed the main ticket items you need to consider, with the miscellaneous representing an educated guesstimate of the many smaller costs incurred over the journey. Costs such as your building insurances and your power and your water bills over the duration of the project. It would be easy to ignore these type of costs, but they do add up and they need to be considered to get an accurate financial picture of your potential project. Next, we have the sales and marketing costs that need to be considered when crunching the numbers on a dual lock development project. Again, every project is going to be different, but here are some of the more common costs you can expect. You have your render set and your brochure. In this case, the total marketing and sales come to $8,000. If you are doing a feasibility on your site, you need to also remember your sales and agents' commissions on the projected sales figures. These can vary significantly between agencies, agents, and locations, but as a guide, you're looking at anywhere between 1.5% to 2.5% of your end selling value of your your properties. You'll also need to consider the cost to market on the real estate portals, such as realestate.com and Domain. Depending on your location and what marketing package you go for, this can cost anywhere between $2,000 to $10,000. Next, we have the construction costs. All things being equal, this should be a pretty simple part of the process. It's the agreed fixed contract price that you have negotiated with your selected builder, plus a small contingency for additional earthworks if required. Here at Little Fish, we work on about 5% for the contingency. Build contract and contingency. Items added up in this particular circumstance come to $680,000. Generally speaking, once your property development is out of the ground, and as long as you get everything right on the front end and you are working with the right builder, variation shouldn't be an issue. You should be in clear skies. Obviously, your builder has no idea what's under the ground until they start digging, and it's not uncommon for them to hit rock, which incurs additional excavation and concrete costs that they won't have allowed for. So you need to allow for some contingency to avoid any expensive surprises. If the site still stacks up with the contingency, then it's game on, but if not, you need to move on to the next one. So finally, we have the holding costs. So that's the bank interest that you need to pay for when you borrow money for the project. This can be a little bit more complicated to work out, as there are a lot of things you need to consider. For the purpose of the exercise, and in this example, I've assumed the project will take 20 months to complete from cradle to grave with a 6-month settlement, a 10-month build and 5% interest rate. That total holding in this instance comes to $74,000. Something you need to consider when you're structuring your development finance is capitalised interest. This is when the interest due on a loan is added back to the capital sum rather than being repaid. This essentially means it's calculated over the duration of the project and paid at the end, which is great for your cash flow. So the million-dollar question, how much does a dual occupancy development project cost? Obviously, every property development project is going to be different, which I've mentioned several times throughout the video. But to give you an idea of what the final numbers might look like based on my figures: purchase, planning, sales and marketing, construction costs, and your holding. In this instance, the total project costs come to $1,673,200. Remember, there are many other site and project specific costs that you will need to consider, relevant only to your property development and its unique circumstances. For example, you might need to consider rent that you need to pay during the construction of your development if you are developing your current place of residence, or potential rent lost if the existing dwelling is currently being rented out. Another cost that may or may not be relevant to your site is what's called open space contribution, which is generally applicable to development sites over 2 dwellings. This can be a big one, so it's definitely something you need to figure out and consider before committing to a project. In the end, it's all about finding sites that stack up financially after all costs have been considered. This limits surprises, significantly reduces risk, and gives you every opportunity to achieve your forecasted profits. It might sound easy, but I can tell you from experience, it's incredibly difficult. The impact can be huge on your bottom line if something slips through the net, so keep learning. Knowledge is not only power, it's also money. Well, that's it. Some property development cost examples to get you heading in the right direction. If you're enjoying the content, make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. And until next time, happy developing.